Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to this week's episode of the Create Your Happy podcast. Super pumped to have with me today Amanda Lindsey. And Amanda is one of my soul sisters, I'm telling you. Amanda is a spreader of happy in the world. So obviously we had to connect. She's also a creator of a Facebook group project called SHAPE, which stands for Spreading Happiness Across Planet Earth. She is chronically fabulous and all about the hugs and smiles and spreading that happy. And so today, welcome to the show, Amanda. I really can't wait to dive into this conversation. Share a little bit with us about your story and how you got to where you are now and why you're so passionate about sharing about happiness.
Hey, Christy, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to share my story and just spread some happy. So let's see. Life isn't always happy, that is for sure. And I've had about a good 25 years worth of chronic illness, and that has been a teacher of the happy for me, actually, because in not being happy or finding yourself in some crappy situations, you actually can, I actually have found how to be happy and found my source of joy through those rough times. And so I'd like to kind of go a little back into those 25 years, obviously not the whole thing, but basically one of the points where I found that happiness, and with the pivotal point to where this whole finding the happy and the crappy kind of came from. For years, let's see, it all started when I was 15. Mono, some other infectious diseases, and just my immune system totally whacked out. And I was, dealing with it, meaning basically avoiding it, denying it, pretending it doesn't exist.
Yeah, as humans do.
Absolutely. And so, it would come up in flares, and, I'd be like feeling like shit, and then dealing with it, letting the symptoms go. And then, when it was over, hey, I'm all good, little sparkly, fake smile. Hey, life is great. And that, you can only do that for so long. And it, my body told me, hey, you can only do that for so long.
Yeah.
And I had a flare up that just never went away. And there were some very, very rough times. And so I would say the honesty factor was a big part that started this finding the happy and the crappy. When that flare up never went away, and I was just, dealing, I was like, I really need to recognize, get real with myself and say, hey, I really am, I do have a problem. I am sick and I need some help.
Yeah. That's hard to recognize or admit as a human.
Oh, absolutely. And that is one of the things that is rough, I guess, in all crappy circumstances. I will, not only just in my, specific, but all of them. A lot of the times we don't even realize we're there. And, many times in both, in my situation, I was doing both. I was denying and just not admitting, and I didn't realize how bad it was. So it's a combination of both. I find.
Yeah.
And it's just, admitting it is that first step, I guess, as they say,
Yeah. I mean, in order to move forward, we really do have to gather our starting point information. And when we're not honest with ourselves, we are not getting an accurate starting point. So it's really hard to move forward into our next steps when we are sort of avoiding or, disassociating from where we're starting.
Absolutely. And, a lot of times too, we don't want to accept, or we don't realize or don't want to accept these things because we feel maybe that, or at least I did, that this part of me wasn't worthy. This part of me wasn't lovable. This part of me, so if I pretended it wasn't there, then I didn't have to worry about those feelings.
Yeah, that's some heavy stuff, right? And we're mostly not taught how to deal with those heavy emotions. And so our coping mechanism is avoid at all costs.
Boy, push away,
sweep it under the rug, right? Distract ourselves, numb out with all kinds of coping mechanisms instead of just taking a good close look at what we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And so in that time frame, then this one point that got me really, kicking the ass, realizing what's going on. I had a friend, or real dear friend, that lived across the street from me, and his wife had, recently passed, and he had this amazing wheelchair. He called it the Cadillac of wheelchairs, and she never got to use it. And so he was thrilled. He brought it over and was like, one day for a conversation, he was like, hey, I've got this. You can use it. I think it'll make your life easier. And I was just kind of like, forced to smile. Thank you very much. Deep down, the anger's like boiling in my stomach, saying, why do you think I need this? Blah, blah, blah. Well, I at that point didn't realize or just didn't care how ludicrous things really had gotten. I was so adamant about the independence factor because so much was being taken from me on a daily basis that I was like, okay, I'm going to be the person who tells, everybody how I'm going to get from point A to point B. Nobody else is going to do it. And it got to the point where I'm like, I'm on one of those like desk spinny chairs that, don't have arms. And I'm like, okay, my mom's dragging me from the couch and like plopping me on this desk chair. And I'm like, okay, move me over here. And she's like pushing me, and I'm like holding on to the seat for dear life. And then, trying to get to the car was ridiculous because I made her piggyback ride me to the car. And so this, was just asinine, but my neighbor was like, here, why don't you use this? And so it sat there in the kitchen for a good while.
All that pride. All that human pride.
Absolutely. It's another ass kicker, the human pride.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it sat there, and I'm like, I'm on the couch, right? And that's pretty much where my camping spot was, per se, because I really couldn't move, I would be dragged from either the bed when I'm sleeping or the couch during the day. And so this wheelchair is just like staring me down, right? And I'm just kind of looking at it, and it's just laughing at me the whole time. Yeah, it's like, and I felt that. And yeah. It's like, loser. And I'm like, but what? And it's like, you have no control over your life kind of thing. And I'm like, all right, so okay, well, it's been enough time. Let's try it out, see how it goes. So, there was one day I asked my mom for help to get, I'm like, okay, it's bathroom trip time. Let's try the wheelchair. And she was like shocked as all hell because she was like, what? When did this happen?
Yeah.
Like, hey, it's, I figured it's sitting there. So I get in and I'm like, oh my God, it's so comfortable. It's like so squishy. I'm like, this is amazing. So, and not only that, I was able to start like moving myself a little bit. I mean, granted, it may have been a foot or two or maybe a few inches, but I was able to, use my arms and move me across the room. And I was like, well, that is actually giving me more independence than having to rely on everyone else. I mean, granted, yeah, I'm still relying on everybody else, but it's a goal for me to get better and to get my independence rather than just kind of, bitching at the reasons why I can't move and things. So with time, the wheelchair, it proved, it was just a gratitude moment. It was like, whoa, I was like so thankful for my neighbor and so thankful for this piece of equipment that offered so much assistance to not only me, but everybody else in my life too.
Yeah.
And with that gratitude, that kind of opened up my heart to, accepting more about my situation, accepting that it's okay to have the health issues, and it's okay that I have bad days. It's okay to have people help me, and that giving myself that self-love and to open myself to all the emotions that have come with it, and to stop denying everything. Just kind of be open and just let whatever happen, whatever I'm feeling about the situation, just accept it and accept me for who I am in every moment that I am. It's like, okay, I'm going to kind of go off tangent a little bit here, but today I'm wearing this, bright blue sparkly shirt. And, it is a reflection of how I'm feeling, obviously. But, that sparkly shirt, I'm not that sparkly shirt all the time.
No one is.
Sometimes I'm that, hoodie that or sweatsuit that I've been wearing for 3 weeks and haven't washed, and
it's got stain right down it. Yeah, I got that too.
And it's okay to be that sweatsuit and love that sweatsuit, because there are going to be times that you're just going to be that sweatsuit, and because it's a part of you. And then there's times for that sparkly shirt. And I one of the things that triggered me, I guess, is this idea of the fake it till you make it kind of thing. And I really don't want that finding the happy and the crappy to come across that way.
Yeah.
Because it's not, it's that fake it till you make it is wearing that sparkly shirt every day, no matter what.
Yeah.
And yeah, finding the happy and the crappy is that being able to have that, be that nasty sweatsuit, but love yourself.
The sparkly shirt.
Huh?
And the sweatshirt and the sparkly shirt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no either or. I mean, it doesn't have to be either or.
Yeah.
It is and then there's the in between. You got your bathing suit. So
yeah, you're whole. You're all of the things. You're both and a whole spectrum in between. And I think exactly what you're saying, coming to a certain level of acceptance that we are in fact this whole human with, all of these different facets and sides. That's what makes us unique.
Absolutely. And, with all those quirky things, I think that's beautiful. And that's what makes the world just such a better place. It just, when we can accept ourselves, we can, as the the sweatshirt or the sweatsuit and sparkly shirt, when we can do that, then we can accept others in their sparkly shirts and their sweatshirts, and recognize that everybody is going through things and rough times. And I think that the more that we can accept ourselves, we can accept others, and it just builds a happier place and a more loving world.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that self-acceptance is a huge catalyst to change. And I think as far as encouraging others around you to change, if that is something that you feel called to do, accepting them is a pivotal piece of that journey as well. I think that a lot of people have this confused idea in their mind about guilt or shame or feeling bad about a thing. And if they just beat themselves up enough, that it will propel them forward. But that doesn't work that way. And usually that actually keeps you really stuck, because what you're doing with the guilt and the shame is actually resisting those parts of you. And so as long as you continue to resist those parts of you, they aren't able to integrate, and you're missing out on that bit of your wholeness. Your power is in that wholeness. And actually, I love your story about the wheelchair, because it's almost a metaphor for getting out of your comfort zone. Because what you discovered when you got out of your comfort zone was that it was actually far more comfortable, right? There were better things that you just weren't yet aware of when you were, kind of looking at this office chair as like your go-to. That was your comfort zone. That was your safety. That was what was working ish. Right. And so until you knew there was something else better and were willing to give it a try, you were kind of in that comfort zone doing the same things. And a lot of us find ourselves doing that in life, in all kinds of areas, in our relationships, in our business, in our health. We're doing the same things. We're waiting for a different outcome, but we're largely staying in our comfort zone doing the same things. And if we were to just take a baby step and try, just try something that's a little different, we might discover the Cadillac of all wheelchairs and a greater deal of comfort, freedom, control over your sovereignty that you weren't able to find when you were staying safe in your comfort zone.
That is so true. It really is. And also, big part of it is not knowing. When you don't know anything better, what's that saying? When we know better, we do better, or something. I think it was, yeah.
I think it's Maya Angelou.
Yeah,
Maya Angelou. We know better, we do better, and that's just it, right? We don't know what we don't know, and that's that's not our fault. It's not about placing blame or making yourself feel bad for not knowing. But now that you know, right, and in order to learn and grow and know more things, we have to be willing to take a step towards them, to explore them, to consider new possibilities, to open our mind to greater opportunities that we maybe don't even know exist yet.
That is true. And along with that growth mindset is patience. And I find that too, also as part of, when I was finding the happy and the crappy, that it's not an overnight deal. Your crappy situation, regardless of it's one of those, instantaneous crappy situations, and you're like, oh my goodness, what do I do? Or if it's a chronic crappy situation, the time invested is really important, because trying to, push forward when you're not ready isn't going to work either. Yeah. And, and I guess kind of in that vein of when you were saying kind of in the negative, pushing through, trying to motivate yourself, also just moving forward and saying, I'm going to get out of the situation right now, or, you need patience. It's just important. I know that it's a little rough, because a lot of times you don't want to remain in a crappy situation. But the good news is that it's not an either or. I'm not happy, or I'm sad, or I'm angry, or it's this beautiful, dance of emotions, and they can all exist at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's really important to note because a lot of people, I have heard people say that they can't be happy because of XYZ, whatever situation they're going through. And I like to counter that with not every experience or moment is going to be exactly as you desire, but happiness is a choice, right? And we can decide. And yes, we can be happy and sad. We can be grieving and filled with joy. We can experience wildly different emotions, even overlapping and at the same time, because we are complex as human. We're whole. So we have all of these different pieces. And to ignore one part of that for another is to deny our wholeness.
Gotta agree with you there. And accepting that wholeness, that's one of the things that had led me to wanting to spread happiness, because I found that my happy is me. Regardless of what my circumstances are, I can be that unicorn and rainbow when the unicorns and rainbows are on vacation.
Yeah.
I just, what needs to happen is just to look within and find all that with you inside, and that's tough. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that's way easier said than done.
Absolutely.
But but that wholeness, when God, when I felt that, and then when I feel that, because even talking about it, I just get this huge smile on my face and this just like expansion of my heart. I'm like, I want everybody to feel this way.
Yeah.
And that, along with another kind of crappy circumstance, kind of brought in the shape concept, and that was the pandemic. And basically, in a kind of ironic twist, the pandemic was for many, many billions of people at the same time having happened to them what happened to me over the course of my chronic health issues. This upturning instantaneously of a life I once knew.
Yeah.
And, how do you deal? And so I honestly wasn't affected by the pandemic, because I was just kind of not like in an evil way, but I was kind of like, welcome to my world,
Yeah.
Like,
You have the tools in place to already handle that.
and that is true. And I was happy, and I wanted to share those tools.
Yeah.
And a big part of me, again, I'm all about the hugs and smiles.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, there just weren't, because, the distance, the social distancing, no hugs happening.
Yeah.
And the masks were covering the smiles. If there were smiles, they were being covered.
Yeah.
So I thought, what came to me was I wanted to give hugs and smiles. And so I had these little cards in mind, and they originally were called Hugs and Smiles. They're now puff-shaped cards to go along with the group. But the idea was, I could send these cards to people, or if I happen to be out and about and, the social distancing factor, I can give this card to somebody that says, have a wonderful day, or you're awesome, and just spread a little joy and in these times. So it took my health issues and accepting myself and realizing that I'm my joy.
Yeah.
And then a huge external crappy circumstance to say, you know what? I think I just want to spread this joy to the world. And so the Facebook group was born. Again, a dear friend of mine set that up, because I kind of got imposter syndrome on that, and was like, I wasn't all the way ready, because I was, still questioning, my health. Am I able to do this? Am I able to show up the way you're supposed to show up. And
All those expectations, right?
and then another part of that, you know, finding the happy and the crappy process is that it's an ever evolving process. And so, yeah, you may get out of this one situation, but another one might pop up in a different way. You know, it may be more emotional rather than physical or financial or whatever. But the ideas of getting honest, having gratitude, and self acceptance,
Yeah.
and just patience and loving yourself, it goes to all of them, you know? So the imposter syndrome again set in, but then I loved that part of me and said, hey, you know, you don't have to show up like everybody else because you're you.
Not, yeah. You're not anybody else. You're you. And the sooner we can come to accept that, honestly, the sooner we can free ourselves from a whole host of suffering that is ultimately, you know, in our own thought life. We are creating a lot of suffering through the stories and the meanings and the beliefs and the judgments that we have about ourselves and about our experience of reality. So ultimately, we're going to take back our power by getting a good, honest look at what's going on there, and then really shifting into how we would like to feel, right? Not bypassing, right? Because that's what you were talking about before. We don't want to bypass things and pretend I'm fine, sweep it under the rug. It doesn't exist. That doesn't work either, because we're still carrying that with us. And it comes out really often. It comes out in ways that we don't intend for it to come out when we're trying so hard to avoid it. But when we just sweep it in, this is like what you want to do with like all the people there that are struggling. You just want to sweep them into a big old hug and tell them you are loved, you are worthy, and it's all going to be okay. You just got to keep moving forward, right? And the sooner you can embrace that love for yourself, the sooner you're going to find freedom from so much of that suffering.
And that's absolutely correct. I realized that again in this process that life wasn't happening to me, it was happening for me. And I was like, you know, before looking at all the shit that was being piled upon me, I was doing it to myself. I was putting all that shit there. Life just gave me a circumstance.
Yeah.
And, you know, so what I try and do now is just look at the circumstance and say, okay, it's a circumstance.
Yeah.
How do I want to feel about it?
Yeah.
And choose accordingly. And yeah, you know, you can choose to feel like shit. And there's no problem with that, because sometimes you just need to for you know, a little while. Now, it's not healthy to remain there.
That's it. Yeah.
And wallow. But if it calls for it, then be that, embrace that, because that's part of you. And again, it's just once you embrace that, things just change.
Yeah. I find that when you embrace those uncomfortable emotions, they don't hang on to you nearly as long. When you try to resist them, it's like they're like attached with glue and you cannot seem to kick them, even though you're desperately trying to avoid feeling them or looking at them or dealing with them at all. They keep like nattering at you. They're just they're there in the background and you can't seem to escape them. But the truth is actually acknowledging, oh gosh, I'm feeling some type of way. I'm feeling kind of sad today. And instead of trying to be like avoidant of it, you just look it right in the face and be like, I'm kind of sad today. I wonder what's causing me to feel sad today, and actually taking an honest look at it, it's going to let go of you. And before long, you're going to find yourself, you know, feeling completely free of that and not carrying that suffering with you any longer than it needs to be. I mean, honestly, we really, truthfully, don't need to suffer as long as we often do, right? Because a lot of that is us carrying it, us ruminating in it, and us building the stories full of judgment, beliefs, and meanings that we don't have to do, because we can choose, like you say, to look for something else, feel the thing, and then let it go.
Absolutely. What is it? The only way out is through. Is that how it works? Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way, right? Like the way to heal. And I look at healing a little bit of a different way as to some people. And I don't mean physical healing. I mean emotional and human healing, soul healing is ultimately to feel through the things, not avoid them. We can't go around it. We can't go over it. I now feel like I'm in that, like, can't go over it. Can't go under. But the truth is you have to go through it. And then, you have to through the bog to get to where you're going sometimes. And sometimes that's the most direct route. And then once it's done, then you can release it and it will release you.
Absolutely. And it just made me start thinking that, a lot of the songs or the things that we learn are, what is that saying? Everything I ever needed to know I learned in kindergarten is so true. It really is. The more you think about it, the more we complicate life as adults, or as the older we get. It just seems that we make things harder, way harder than they have to be.
We really do. We're so easily distractible, and we as a human species tend to be a little forgetful because we actually have so much power within us, right? And we can reclaim that power. It was never gone. It's not about, finding it or bringing it back or taking it from anyone, because it's always been there. It's just about empowering yourself, recognizing, right, through loving yourself and accepting yourself and recognizing your uniqueness and taking that with you to start creating the life that you truly want. And that's in your personal power. Like, there's literally no one else that can make you happy. That's your job. That's your job solely, and vice versa. It's not your job to make anyone else happy. I mean, it feels nice, right, to put a smile on someone's face. And I'm not saying don't do that. Obviously, that feels good for everybody involved. But what I'm saying is don't take that responsibility, because you got to focus on yourself and creating your own happy. That is your sole responsibility.
And that's another very good point to bring up regarding my Facebook group. It's not me trying to make people happy. And I know it might seem that way when I talk about it, but it's an international Facebook group. We've got over 700 people right now, and we have 49 different countries involved. And what it is it's a place to go. I'm holding that space, and that's what makes me happy. It doesn't make me happy it makes me happy if you get if my smile makes you smile like that, absolutely. But that's not my intent. My intent is to hold that space for everybody to come together and be happy, share their happiness, receive the happiness, uplift, empower, connect, and just love, because not everyone goes there in a happy mood. Yeah. Some people go there because they're having a real bad day and need an uplift. And they may not share it, or they may. And when they do share it, I find the outpouring of support just beautiful. Just having that community of happiness, that it is always there. Yeah. It's just how you choose to see it, or if you can see it, and allowing yourself to see it.
Yeah, it is crucial for us to have a bit of a relationship with ourselves from which that can overflow. And that's how we can then spread the happy and share that to people who aren't quite there yet. And if you're not quite there yet, that's okay. It doesn't mean that anything about you. It just means that you're at a certain place on your journey. And this work, to say it's your responsibility to create your happy. Yes, it's your work, but you don't have to do it alone, right? You can seek out support. It is your inner work to do, but you're going to find it a lot easier oftentimes to do that with someone in your corner. And also they help you see your blind spots, which is super helpful too, right?
Absolutely.
I know you've shared a little bit about the SHAPE project and your community. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners? And we'll have some stuff in the show notes, obviously, the links to the group and stuff. But please go ahead and share what you're passionately working on right now and how our listeners can get in touch with you.
Well, currently, I just got a book launch done March 3rd. I contributed to my second multi-author book, and yay! It's titled Divine Love. And I actually, in that particular chapter, I go into more depth about the wheelchair situation and finding my joy. So if you guys were intrigued about that at all, you can find that on Amazon.
Yeah.
Let's see. My other book, Sacred Surrender, that actually was the chapter that I wrote was about the origins of the Project SHAPE group, more in depth.
Yeah.
Because writing is also a big passion of mine, and another way that I love to spread happiness. And so, with that in mind too, I have a solo book happening in my head that will eventually come out one day, but it is in the works. So that's a happy thing I'm excited about. And then my SHAPE cards, I just did a kind of a rebrand on the website that will be down there. But they're little cards in packs of 10, and anything that you desire to donate, the donations are, the minimum is $3, and that basically covers costs for mailing, international, everything. Yeah. And what I love about those is I get to write happy notes to just random strangers, and who knows where they go, because each card is handwritten by me. And so that's another thing that brings me joy.
Yeah, I love that.
Pretty much what I'm up to right now.
Fantastic. I know that those cards are making a huge impact in the world. Sometimes it's hard to see the impact that we're creating, but you just know, right? You just know that those cards are putting a smile on people's faces literally all over the world, 49 countries and counting. Like, that's a massive impact. So cheers to you. I love this initiative, and I'm so grateful that we have connected. I would love to finish the episode, and I know you've got something real juicy to share. Something practical. We talked about quite a few things today, but I would really love for you to share a practical tool that our listeners can take today in order to really start experiencing this discovery of the happy in the crappy. What's something that they can do to start, really diving into that today?
Well, once you're aware, I guess, of your situation, and you've come to grips with, hey, I need to do something about it, I would suggest to start with a gratitude practice. And it doesn't have to be anything big. And it's to me, a gratitude is expressing a legitimate thankfulness. So it's not something that's forced upon you or obligatory or anything like that. So if you're in a situation and you want to make your, a more positive, happy outcome, or taking steps, just to, either think about either in the morning when you wake up, or, before you go to bed.
Those are the best times for sure, because your brain is super receptive, and that's a great time to really just reflect.
Just a thing or two. I mean, it could be, and I guarantee you there was a point where it was just, I opened my eyes today, and that got me through. So, if it's that, if it's that small, that builds, and just that one little piece. And if you just do that every day, you're going to find that you start finding more and more things that you're grateful for, and that put a smile on your face. And that leads you into finding that happy.
Yeah. We find what we're looking for, right? Typically. So what we have our mind set to seek out is usually what our mind filters in to our experience. So the more you look for the goodness, the positive aspects, or not positive aspects even of that, but some other positive aspect, more you're going to find those silver linings or things to be grateful for. And like I said, it will continue to build, even if today you're only grateful that you have a lot of coffee on hand, right?
Yeah.
It can be something so simple to start with, but it can quickly snowball from there. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom around finding the happy in your crappy. I know that some of our listeners out there are going to just love this conversation. So I appreciate you. I'm so grateful for you. Let's keep on spreading that happy all across planet Earth. I love you. Now let's go do some epic shit, shall we? Mwah. If you're ready to go a little bit deeper and do the work for yourself, my book, Unstuck for Women, is going to help you to create your personalized spiral stopper using my spiral stopper method in order to shut down all that overthinking and overwhelm that have been keeping you stuck in your current patterns. I'm going to explain inside the book how your brain works and why it might not be currently helping you to accomplish your goals and how to change that. I'm also super excited to announce the upcoming launch of my brand new course, the Get the Fuck Unstuck Adventure. In this course, you are going to learn how to accept yourself as a whole-ass human, perfectly imperfect, just as you are. You'll discover how to free yourself from unnecessary pain and suffering. You'll learn how you can look and feel better in your body right now. You'll learn to understand yourself better in order to intentionally create the experiences you desire. And of course, you're going to learn how to stop merely surviving so you can finally start thriving. This adventure contains 21 perspective shifts that are going to take you from stuck in survival mode to consciously creating as your next level self. So join us, try on a few new perspectives, play with a few new possibilities, and become more intentional with your life. Registration is open and the course kicks off on February 6th. If you haven't had a chance yet, be sure to head on over to my website at gtfu.ca for some sweet goodies and bonuses that are going to help you get the fuck unstuck, starting right now. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.